Culture and Archaeology, Punjab University, Chandigarh. Today we will be doing a module on Sittannavasal cave paintings. The cave of Sittannavasal is a tribute to the Jain saints and reflects the labor done by the artists inside the caves, which truly enthrall the spectators. Through this module, one will analyze the painting in the caves of those times. The overlapping of painting will expose the techniques and painter's ability to the reader. Sittannavasal cave is a 2nd century Jain complex of caves in Sittannavasal village in Padukottoi district of Tamil Nadu, India. Its name is a distorted form of Sittannavasal, a Tamil word which means the abode of great saints. The monument is a rock-cut monastery or a temple. It was created by Jains and is called the Arival Koil, which is a rock-cut cave temple of the Arihats. It contains remnants of the notable frescoes from the 7th century. These paintings were discovered by Gopinath Rao and were studied by Jovran Dubrior, Sarma Balasubramaniam, Sittannavasal and Ramchandran. Recently, it has been found that there are 2 layers of painting, an earlier and a later. An inscription of 9th century refers to additions and renovations to the cave temple in the early Pandyan period. It is thus clear that the paintings which were attributed to the early Pallavas of the time of Mahendravarman actually are Pandyan paintings of the 9th century. The murals have been painted with vegetable and mineral dyes in black, green, yellow, orange, blue and white. Paintings have been created by applying colors over a thin wet surface of lime plaster. Now we will study the historical background of these caves. The early Pandyan dynasty ruled from 7th to 9th century AD. The Pandyas, like Chalukyas, were frequently fighting the Pallavas, but nevertheless were struck with the beauty of Pallav cave temples and monolithic shrines. Like the Pallav king Mahendravarman, the Pandyan king was reclaimed from Jainism by the saint in the later half of the 7th century. The Pandyan king Maryavarman Rajasingha, also known as Palva Bhanjan, found a favorable moment to attack the Pallavas during the time of Nandivarman Pallav. His son Nendu Jayadyan had a minister, Uddar Mantri Marangari, who excavated a temple for Vishnu in Annamala hill in the neighborhood of Madurai and recorded it in an inscription. It is this history of the early Pandyas which should help us understand why both the cave temples and the rock-cut freestanding temples of the Pandyas so closely resemble and recall those of the early Pallavas. Sittannavasal is a rock-cut cave situated on the western side of central part of a hill which runs in a north-south direction. The hill measures approximately 70 meters, that is 230 feet in height, and sits above the surroundings plain which has some archaeological monuments as well. The Jain natural caverns called Ezadipattam are approached from the foothills. The cave is approached by climbing a few hundred steps. The architectural features of the Sittannavasal cave include the painting and sculptures found within its precincts. The Archaeological Survey of India is responsible for the maintenance of cave and the Jain pits. There were paintings all around. The temple at one time was fully decorated, but now only the upper parts of the edifice have survived the ravages of time. Paintings therefore appear only on the ceilings, the capitals and the upper parts of the pillars. The paintings present following divisions: a canopy of carpet pattern is observed over the niches of Parshvanath with full-blown lotus flowers and buds and the lotus leaves. The ceilings of the north over the niche of Tiruvasliyan contains a similar canopy of carpet pattern with a background of circular floral designs. The ceiling of the sanctum has a carpet pattern canopy over the sculptures on the back wall with ornamental borders and pattern of squares and circles within. The circles present crosses with two human figures above and two lions below the horizontal arm. Traces of environmental figures. The most important theme is painted on the continuous veranda where a tank featuring lotuses, lilies, fishes, makar, birds, elephants, buffaloes and three men bhavyas wading in it and gathering flowers. The second scene, the bottom of the beam, there is a beautiful lotus foliage scene issuing from makar between the corbels of Ardhamandap and on the other face canopy design of conventional floral patterns. The third, the paintings are also available on the rolls of the corbels as well as the median band of two central corbels which shows foliage and lotus buds, while the two different pairs are marked by sprigs of foliage. From the cornice of the facade, it is evident that the under surface is divided into 5 parts by 4 bands. The central area is painted with the canopy of lotuses and lilies, the bands on either sides depicting the figure of Hans. The pillars of the cave also have patches of different style of painting. The upper octagonal parts are painted with the fabulous Apsara dancers. The other group of paintings on the top of the southern pillar reveal on its northern face a king standing with his queen, who is identified with Mahendravarman I. He is a Pallav king. Much of the paintings have been lost which were earlier depicted on the pillars and pilasters. The ceiling of the sanctum is carved with a conspicuous wheel which is quite similar to that of the Buddha's Dharam Chakra. It represents the Vijay Chakra of Jaina, which is known from the Kharewal inscription. The ceiling consists of 2 patterns, one geometric and other floral. The Ardhamandap. Renovations of the pillars and the pilasters have been taken up both within the sanctum sanctorum and the ceiling of the veranda. It is painted with tank full of realistic lotuses. Amidst lotuses are portrayed various kinds of fish, a makar, buffaloes, elephants and numerous birds such as geese. In the northwest corner of the tank, 2 devotees in a lion cloth are shown wading through the water. One seems carrying basket in one hand and is plucking flowers with the other. The other carries a lotus over his left shoulder and extends his right hand with the fingers forming the mudra of overture as he is beckoning the bhavya ahead of him. The third person in the corner of the tank carries a lily in the right hand and a bundle of roses in his left hand. The aquatic animals are shown playing in the pond or the tank, engaged in bathing and splashing water on each other. Third elephant is wading in the water of the tank behind the elephant that is pulling the lotus by its stalk is suggestive of supreme content. The lotus leaves are made to stand as background of every lotus flower in bloom to set off the latter and bring out its beauty. The 2 personages standing are dark red, while that of the third person is brown. The painter has, however, not forgotten to depict the leaping fish with its enviable eye. There are 2 buffaloes in 2 different parts of the lotus tank. One maintains the stone still pose in water, and the other one is little bit agitated and has tilted his head in proof thereof. The twisted horns of the buffalo give dignity to the picture of the animal. There is representation of birds, duck and fish. Ducks are seen in pairs as well as single. depiction of elephants playing and splashing water is clearly visible. The animals are in motion and are shown indulging in different activities. Nothing is mute, whether elephants, buffaloes, fish or birds. The scene is also painted with the floral beauty and has many lotuses, lilies and buds. The leaves in the scene are pointed and very elaborately painted within the whole scene. The position of three young men who have been wearing a lion cloth wading through water surface, collecting lotuses as they go, clearly suggests that the purpose of plucking flowers is to carry them for worship. According to T.N. Ramachandran, the two men represent in the wading position. The ears of these men are not only elongated but also have distended lobes. It seems that the men have removed the earrings because they were to take bath in the tank, and lotuses in their hands suggest that they were holding it for worshipping in the lotus tank. The leaves are green with black outlines. They are somehow red or pink. Lotus flowers with yellow stems. The buffaloes and other animals are dark grey with black outline. Human figures are in red and yellow. Red is the basic color which dominates the scene. Dr. W.L. and Gopinath Rao had discovered these paintings and declared that the temple is identical in design with that of Mamandur, that it was at one time fully painted, but only the paintings in the upper part are visible to us now. The tank scene reflects probably the religious history of Jains. Some of the scholars were totally against this interpretation. N.G. Mehta, M.S. Sarma and S.R. Balasubramaniam gave a different identification to the scene. They conclude that the subject matter of this painting is from Jain mythology. There is a conception of comparing the Jain art to that of the art piece present on the railing of Amravati Stoop, which is associated with Buddhism. The lotus tank is sacred object of the Jains. When the embryo of Mahavir was transferred by Harini Gamesh, Indra's messenger, from the womb of Brahmin lady to that of Kshatriya Rani Trishla, she saw 14 auspicious portents Shakur. One of them was the lotus pool Mansaras, which was a lake of lotuses, swans, cranes and ducks. There are other mythological stories which relate to the tank scene. The acceptance of various stories has been denied by various scholars. Basically, this story suggests that there is no connection among the Buddhist Amravati railing and the paintings present in Sittannavasal. The architraves over the facade and the pillars have all been painted. The bottom face of the architrave, which is supported by corbels of the veranda pillars, is exposed to view as in an aisle in 3 places between the corbels. The central part reveals a canopy designed with lotus and foliage issuing from designs of conventional floral patterns. The corbels are painted in red, green and yellow. The median bands of 2 central corbels are decorated by natural lotus buds and foliage, whereas 2 outer pairs are similarly embellished with sprigs of foliage. The corbels are decorated with conventional flowery designs and painted bands in circles and squares are in parallelograms. The painter has also shown his mastery over the cornice. For its underface, which is divided into 5 areas and shows in center a canopy design with lotuses, lilies in bands on either side of this hunts with plumage and floral pattern. Also find paintings on pillars. The pillar paintings have fascinated the art historians with the apsaras painted on the cubical part of the pillars. Both the figures are graceful as seen from the paintings. On the front face of the upper cubical part of the northern pillar, there is a graceful figure of dancing apsara. The painting is very much obliterated. All that we can make out is only the upper body of the lady with her head tilted to the left and with her ears decorated with kundals. The image was wearing wristlets and 3 necklaces which were elegantly falling over her dress. The outline of the figure was dark red, the body yellow and the background red. The figure is wearing ring in its right index finger. The hair is tied in a knot and is touching the neck. The frontal tiara goes against the hair in the front above the forehead. Nothing is visible below the waist of the Apsara, and is difficult to make out that what dance form she is performing. The pose in the painting is similar to the Natya pose number 18 sculptured on the walls of Brideshwar temple, Tanjore. The only difference is that the position is reversed. The Apsaras were loaded with ornaments, broad-hipped, narrow waist and slender body, suggests that the painters were very much aware of the feminine beauty. On the northern face, on the same southern pillar, are the portraits of a king with his queen behind him in dark red outline and a man colored red in front. The background is green in color and it appears to be a part of the pavilion or chariot. Scholars give this image in different ways, such as Mehta interprets it as Ardhanarishwar or Mahadev in his work Studies in Indian Painting. The figure depicts a queen standing with the king. The Patrakundal and the ordinary coronet show that Shiv was not intended. Some of these scholars opine that Shiv has no place in a Jain shrine. They are unable to see in the figure any expression of divinity that should go as a monopoly to Shiv alone. Such dignity can go to King Mahendravarman I. The figure behind him is that of his wife and he is going with her to the shrine. This image can be compared to that of the Varaha cave at Mahabalipuram, which contains a portrait of Mahendravarman I heading towards the shrine accompanied by 2 of his queens. Apart from this identification, there are more points to add with the help of Lalit Kala addition, which probably noticed and described other peculiar features. Painting which is shown in front of the king, such as the floral festoon hanging from the ceiling of the shrine and figure of a man with distended earlobes, can be identified as a mendicant on extreme left. Maybe this couple has come to pay respect to this mendicant. If so, then Mahendravarman I had come to pay respect to his Jain Guru before he converted to Shaivism, but this interpretation is not yet confirmed because the scene can relate to different contexts and different persons. With the inscriptional evidence found itself in the cave, an old Tamil inscription in verse on the surface of the rock near the southern end of the facade refers to the reign of Pandyan king Shirivallabh, in whose reign the Jain Acharya from Madurai renovated the Ardhamandap of the temple, built the Mukhmandap to it and attended to the sculptures of Adivendar and a painted sculpture of Tiruveran. These details are present in the temple inscriptions as creation of this Madurai Acharya. So a valid interpretation can be concluded through this that Pandyan king Shirivallabh and his queen as the persons meant in the painting who probably visited the Gautam Acharya at Sittannavasal. It is worth noticing here that the evidence discussed goes to show that the entire extant layer of painting in the cave temple belongs to first half of the 9th century AD. It was observed that there is an inner layer of painting exposed here and thereby peeling off the outer layer on the ceiling of the sanctum. The inner layer was there when the cave temple was originally excavated in the 7th century AD. Now we will discuss the technique. The technique used in the Sittannavasal caves is very peculiar and has been declared that the lines and features of the Sittannavasal paintings exhibit a close resemblance on the styles of classical paintings at Ajanta, Ellora and Bagh. S. Paramashivam has elaborately discussed in his work about the technique used in the paintings of the Sittannavasal cave. His opinion is described as, on one hand, there is a close resemblance between the artistic workmanship at Ajanta and Sittannavasal, but on the other hand, there are wide variations in the handling of the material by the artists. Sittannavasal paintings are executed on a well consolidated and firm lime plaster. The plaster is delicate and thin. There is glossiness in the paintings of Sittannavasal caves. This gloss has been imparted probably through the elaborate polishing. Sittannavasal artist has made use of lime water and binding. This actually made the pigment stick fast. The painted stucco at Sittannavasal consists of 3 layers laid one over the other. The rough lime plaster and the paint fill is 2.5 mm to 0.5 mm and 0.4 mm. The rough plaster has been prepared by mixing approximately 1 part by weight of lime with 1.5 part of sand by weight. A smooth coating of lime wash was applied over the rough plaster. The plaster was thus chemically analyzed. There was rich lime with no hydraulic properties used. An element called gypsum, which prevents the setting of the mortar and gives rise to efflorescence, is present only in negligible quantity. Impurities such as alkalis and other soluble salts are present in very small proportions. The lime wash has a fine gloss and there is a firm adherence to plaster. All this is indicative of the special precautions taken while making the lime. There were different kind of tests applied to the preparation of various solutions used for the painting. Since the binding between the rough and fine plaster is very strong, the lime was probably applied while the rough plaster was still wet. The colors which were mainly used were lime for white, lamp black for black, ochre for yellow, and red terre verte for green. The mineral colors which are of permanent nature have been used. The color scale is very restricted. The use of dark red outline, yellow body colors and red background in the case of the dancing apsaras. The painting of the king and queen displays the green color in background. Red and yellow portray their body colors. While in the inner sanctum of the cave, carpet designs are painted on the ceiling with black outline and red or yellow body colors. Thus, warm colors like yellow and red have been extensively applied. Cold colors like green have been occasionally used. At the initiative of Padukottai estate, during 1937 and 1939, the paintings were cleaned and then given a preservative coating. Also, the damaged portions of the plastering were injected with cementing material and the paintings were also retouched. The condition of paintings is deteriorating day by day. The site needs immediate attention of all stakeholders to preserve these paintings for future generations.